What a joy and what a privilege to be here. And I want to just greet each one in the name of the Lord, and especially those that are watching online as well. There's something that the Lord has been speaking to my heart about, especially after all these 40 years of ministry. And I've been doing a lot of reflection and prayer and just seeking the Lord and saying, Lord, what are some things that you have taught me? What are some things that I've learned in all my journey that you have given to me? And so I want to share with you some very key, important truth that somehow are just so simple, but yet very often we as believers miss out on those beliefs. Now, there's something I've observed about RCA. We had a wonderful time in the celebration last Sunday, the 5th anniversary. I think that was fantastic, a great turnout. And there's something I've observed about this church. There's something about sharing life together. And that's something I've seen in RCA. You love people. You are involved in sharing life together as a community. You're involved in missions. You have a passion for souls. You have a clear vision and a purpose. There's this sense of coming together to serve one another and to serve the community. And I think that is because you are concerned about eternal outcomes. You know, what drives us to come to church? What drives us to, be part of a prayer meeting? What drives us to come together to press into to serve the community? It is because we all have a concern for eternal outcomes. You see, none of these things can happen unless we actually give of our time, our energy, our resources, our money, our possessions, isn't it? You see, we all can make a difference when we have a clear understanding of what God requires of us. There are many people today, including young people and the seniors as well, that somehow maybe don't have a sense of purpose or direction. And so here are some prescriptions for life that I felt the Lord speaking to my heart and things that I've learned and read from others as well. How we see life. What is the kingdom of God like? What is my role on earth? Can my small contribution to God's kingdom make a real difference? And perhaps some of us are sitting here and you're thinking, what can I actually contribute to the kingdom of God? What is my outlook or my perspective about life and ministry? So I want to share with you something. You have the potential to upgrade your life. How many likes upgrade? I know Singaporeans like upgrades, right? Upgrade from your BTO to your condo and so on and so forth. We all want upgrades. You want to upgrade for our credit cards, from one level to another level. You take a plane and you want to move from economy class to premium economy or to business class, isn't it? Well, let's improve our faith journey. Let's find out what are some prescriptions that will help us to grow. And here are just some few prescriptions. Let me just share with you very briefly. I'm not going to touch a lot on it because I want to go to the crux of a story that is found in the New Testament later. Number one, how we view things determine how we do things. The Lord began to speak to me, Proverbs 23, verse 7. And Proverbs says this, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Now, what does this really mean? You see, our thought world, what we think, right, determines how we are going to end up doing certain things. If, for example, I wake up this morning and say, I feel very negative. It's going to rain, there's going to be a thunderstorm. In fact, that's what the weather forecast was, 73% thunderstorm. And, you just don't feel like you're going to have a good day. Then you probably end up not having a good day. But if you wake up in the morning and you say, even though I don't feel well, but I look forward to what God has for me. There are people that I'm going to meet, people I'm going to pray for, people I'm going to connect with. Well, your outlook, how you see things change because how you think about it changes. If I sat down with you and we kind of have coffee together, and then you ask me this question, how can I improve my life? I will say this. I'm not going to talk about money. I'm not going to talk about investments. But I will talk about how we think, how we see things. I will talk about perspective, your outlook on life. Because if I view excellence as an important value, for example, then I will do excellence. But if I think average will do, just do the minimal in my work, then the outcomes becomes minimal and average. So all of us have weaknesses. I was asking the Lord, what is my weakness? And the Lord said this, Yat Wan, your weakness is you always think of the worst possible outcomes. You know, when you're faced with a problem, and I realized, why am I like that? And I realized I attribute this, and I blame national service actually, you know. Because in national service, when we are trained in the military, we always think of what a good outcome and what is the worst case scenario, right? If you know what's the worst case scenario, then you can prepare for it and avoid the worst case scenario. So in many ways, when I encounter a problem, the first thing is, what's the worst outcome? But then I started to change the way I think. It was my wife that actually scolded me. She said, why always think of the worst outcome? Think about the good first. And so I began to change my thinking. I began to think, what are the good outcomes that can come out of this problem, that can come out of this scenario? For example, if I think coming to church late is okay, you know, I can be a bit tardy and I can miss a few praise songs, then tendency is you start doing the same thing. You come to church late. If I think that I don't have to go to a prayer meeting, why? Because prayer meeting is kind of like a waste of my time, but I can catch up on my sleep, or I can watch my Netflix that I have not seen for, you know, the last 2 weeks. Then I will skip the prayer meeting. So how you think, all right, determines how we start doing those things. And how we view things also determine how we do things. Let's look at the next slide. Do you live to eat or eat to live? Wow, this one is it's not a trick question, by the way, all right? All right, I'm not going to ask for a raising of hands because it would really be very judgmental. But you live to eat. You become like a foodie, you know? And then you eat to live. You can become like a faddie, you know? You know what's a faddie? It actually is an English word. You check it on your Google translation, all right? Faddie simply means you have a strong liking or you have a strong dislike about certain food. For example, if you are a durian lover, how many durian lovers are here? Oh, my hand is up already. I am a faddie. Wow, there's some food I like. But if you are a durian hater, anybody durian haters here? Don't raise up your hand, you might be stoned, all right? The durian haters, you are also called a faddie. Now, I didn't say fatty, all right? I didn't say fatty, I just say faddie. So for me, I live to eat. Oh, I will pursue food for the sensory experience. I will seek out food. Why? Because it will taste good and delicious. No? Wow. Your meals become the high point of your holiday or of your day. I remember last year on Jeju Island, I would drive 100 over km just to seek out horse meat sashimi. You know, horse meat sashimi. Wow. Go Jeju Island and eat horse meat sashimi. I recommend it. Or you eat to live, like my wife. My wife is kind of eat to live type of person, you know. She only eats because the body needs food. Not because she wants to pursue the experience of eating. All right? She eats when she have to, when she gets hungry, but no more. Food is not exciting to eat for her, all right? It is just eating so that she can have health. So do you live to eat or you eat to live? Now, none of them is right or wrong. But see, how you view things that determines how then you start doing those things. How you view it, and it determines how you do it. Second thing is, what you see is who you will be. What you see is who you will be. We tend to see things as we are, not as how it was meant to be. And that's why sometimes when someone makes an announcement or you receive a text or a message on the WhatsApp, you can read the same message, but you can interpret it differently. You and I can watch the same movie, Mission Impossible. I recently just watched it a few weeks ago. And you can watch the Mission Impossible, and somebody will say, wow, very good. It's like all the different series. Then someone will say, not so good. Tom Cruise is getting old. He's not running as fast as he used to. He's not jumping as high as he used to. Maybe the worst movie of the century. I was very disappointed with Mission Impossible. Why? Because it's part 1. And then that means I must watch part 2. I mean, these guys are so smart. The franchise, concept is, well, if you watch part 1, I didn't know of part 1, right? So I was waiting for the ending and then, part 1 now. That means part 2 is coming up. So now I have to wait to watch part 2, but by the time I watch part 2, I forget part 1. So I have to watch part 1 and then I watch part 2 again, all right? So what you see is who you will be. We can see things from different perspectives. And that's something we need to learn. Because sometimes we have this tendency to think, I'm always right. I cannot be wrong, right? I know better, and I know everything kind of thing. And so you always think that you are always right, but sometimes you need to step back and see things from other people's perspective too. Number 3, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at will change. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at will change. Someone once come up to me and say, Pastor, I want to change my spouse. How many had that thinking? And I said, wishful thinking, it will never happen. But a better way is for you to change the way you see your spouse. And then everything turns out for the better. Some of you know that I play golf. So I wanted to turn Angelina into a good golfer. I bought her a very good ladies' golf set. I gave her a gift. I sent her, this gift for coaching by a professional golfer. 10 lessons, golf lessons. She attended 6 out of the 10, which is still good actually, not too bad. At least she went. Then, after the whole thing was over, she never took up golf. So I began to change the way I see Angelina. She's so bad at kicking a soccer ball. No wonder she always missed a small golf ball. Right? So I start changing the way I look at her. And so now she is my caddy. So I just take her along, we go for walks. But the problem with her is she don't have very good eyesight. So she will, where did the golf ball go? I said, you're my caddy. You should know where my golf ball went. I'm trying to teach, my granddaughter, Eleanor, golf, thinking she would inherit my golf skill set. But she picks after her grandmother. Now, number 4, what I believe about life determines how I perceive life, which determines what I receive from life. Something that the Lord spoke to me about. You look at this picture, do you see 2 human figures? Or do you see the vase? Or do you see both? When I reflect on my life, sometimes I think I lack gratitude. Why is that so? Because I tend to focus on myself. Every time I find that I'm not grateful, it's always because I'm thinking about me. Yat Wan. If someone comes to say, would you like to do this or go this or whatever, I would start thinking, what does it mean for me? If someone says something, I say, well, it's not my fault, right? Or I would say something like, how will I benefit from attending this meeting? Why should I pay for this meal if you are the one invited me for the meal, Have you ever had that before? Someone call you, hey, let's go for lunch. And then, yeah, go. And at the end, they don't want to pay. Then I end up paying, but they're the one that invited me for lunch, right? So you kind of have this thinking, wow, these people, I'm not going to call them for lunch anymore, or for that matter, when they call me for lunch, I'm not going to go with them. Why? Because we start changing our perspective of people and things. You see, the moment our perspective goes inward, then we start losing the joy and gratitude and start blame shifting. Let me just read about perspective. There's a slide here about pet's diary, okay? Cat versus dog. Let me start with the dog diary. If you were to read and open up a dog diary, and it would say something like this: 8 a.m., dog food. Wow, my favorite thing. 9:30 a.m., a car ride. Wow, my favorite day. 10 a.m., a walk in the park. Wow, my favorite thing. 10:30 a.m., I got rubbed and patted. Oh, my favorite touch. Noon, lunch. Wow, my favorite food. Wow, this is getting exciting, right, this dog? 1 p.m., play in the garden. Wow, my favorite time of the day. 3 p.m., a long walk, and I managed to chase a squirrel. My favorite day. 5 p.m., play ball. Wow, my favorite thing. 8 p.m., watch TV with my people. My favorite thing. 9 p.m., sleeping in my very nice, comfortable bed. Best day of my life. Wow, that's what a dog's life is all about, isn't it? I wish I'm like a dog, all right? Now, excerpt from a cat's diary. Day 1055, day of my captivity. My captors continue to torture me with bizarre little dangling things around the house. I don't know why my captors would give me canned tuna fish 3 times a day. The only thing that keeps me going is my dream of escape. You know what's the difference between a cat and a dog? How many of you have dogs and cats, by the way? Perspective is everything. How we view things. For a cat, it's like, I'm in captivity. For a dog, it's like, wow, I got freedom. Let's turn to a story that's very familiar with us in the New Testament. Luke chapter 10, verse 29 to 31. It's the story of the Good Samaritan. Many of you know this story, isn't it? Because an expert in the law wanted to justify himself, came to Jesus and said, "Who is my neighbor?" And in reply, Jesus said this story. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. When he was attacked by robbers, they stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. As a priest happened to be going down the same road, but when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him, went to him, bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine, put the man on his donkey, and brought him back to the inn to take care of him. And even the next day, took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said. "And when I return, I will reimburse you for the extra expense you may have." Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? And the expert in the law said, "The one who had mercy on him." Such a familiar story, but here are the key perspectives. The first one is the robber's perspective. You see, the robber had this thinking: what is yours is mine, and I'm going to take it. Isn't it what all robbers do? I will take it by force if I have to, if you don't willingly give to me. You know, actually, Angelina and I were traveling in Eastern Europe a few months ago. And we heard a lot of reports about pickpocket, right? You know, especially in Spain and, you know, a lot of Rome especially. So everywhere we went, you know, train station, the bus, everywhere, everyone is a potential pickpocketer, you know. So you kind of suspect everybody, and then you keep your wallet close to you, and you try and make sure you protect yourself. And thank God nothing happened, and we were very safe. You know, odds are very high that none of you has the view of a robber. Imagine coming to church and you tell your neighbor, give me your wallet. And you tell your neighbor, give me your car keys, because what is yours is mine, and I'm going to take it. Give me your credit card. All right? If everybody has this mentality, when we come to church, nobody will drive their cars to church. They will take bus. Nobody will bring their wallets to church, all right? I mean, all of us will say something like, we don't have a robber's mentality. We're not like this robber. What is yours is mine, and I'm going to take it. So we all feel very good that we don't have this robber mentality. But let me say this. But we were all born with a robber's mentality. Why? Because we see this in our children. As toddlers, we just dedicated a toddler here. Very soon, 1 or 2 years later, wow, all that robber mentality will come out, right? You look at toddlers, the next picture. This is what I see even in my grandchildren. A toddler's perspective is this. If I like it, it is mine. If I can take it away from you, it is mine. If I had this toy a while ago, it is mine. If I say it's mine, means it's mine. If it looks like mine, it's mine. If I'm having fun with it, it is mine. But if it's broken, it is yours. Isn't it what a toddler would do, right? Yeah. I mean, it's very natural for them. Toddlers are like robbers, right? Pretty close. Why is that so? Why? Because we're all born in sin. There's something that is in us that brings about a great amount of selfishness. And then we carry this throughout adult life as well. Even though we don't take a knife and stick it to somebody and rob them, we have this attitude of self-entitlement. That what belongs to me is mine, and it's not meant for giving away. When Angelina makes pineapple tarts, and she, I think, makes one of the best pineapple tarts, and she makes her own kaya, which is a coconut custard, right? And let's say she makes 10 bottles. And let's just say she gives 1 bottle to Pastor Sabrina. And then she gave away all the rest, and I only have 1 left in the house. You know what I'm thinking? Pastor Sabrina, that 1 bottle that engineer gave you is mine. I paid for the eggs. I paid for the flour. I paid for the bottle, we have this thinking. It's so often I will ask Angelina, can you just maybe give 5 and keep 5 for us, I will kind of negotiate with her. And when you have this heart of generosity, something happens. We give away things that we don't claim is ours any longer. Let's look at the second perspective, the Levite and the priest. The Levite and the priest, what is mine, and I'm going to keep it. It's mine. And I'm not going to share it with anybody. It's mine, and I'm going to keep it. Have you ever seen, this sense of entitlement that everything I own belongs to me? And it's because it is birthed out of 2 things, selfishness, and perhaps secondly, a lack of awareness of how possessions work. It's a stewardship issue. Have you experienced this with your child in McDonald's? Or if you are in McDonald's, you probably observed this somewhere. And the next picture will kind of tell you this. Your son loves French fries. And daddy has just bought a large French fries and gave it to the son. And so the son kept the French fries very close to him and starts eating them, all right? Dad looks at the fries and he thinks, wow, those fries smell really good. And Dad reaches out to try and take one of the French fry. And then the son kind of put his hand out. Dad, no, Dad, you cannot eat my fries. Those fries are mine. Wow. So the father looks at the son, and three things come to his mind. The first thing is, my son doesn't understand where those French fries come from. Number one, he says, I am the source of all those fries. I'm the one that paid for the fries. And then the second thing is this. My son doesn't understand that I can take those fries from him, Of course, if he does that, there will be a mini war that takes place, all right? But if my son doesn't want to share those fries, I can easily take it away from him. And even if I wanted to, I can put him in the car and load the whole car up with French fries and he can eat all those fries. The father thinks. The third thing that the father thinks is this. My son doesn't understand that I really don't need those French fries. I can get my own French fries. I am the source of those fries. Now, what bothered the father was really this. The attitude of selfishness and lack of awareness, isn't it? And the word selfishness is this. What is mine is mine. What is mine is mine. But some of you may be sitting here and you're saying, but Pastor, I'm not selfish. I'm actually very generous. In fact, I'm very considerate. Help the poor. I take care of my family. I serve in the church. I'm not selfish even with my work colleagues. And many of us will think this way. In fact, I would be the first one to say, I'm not selfish. But if you think you're not selfish, then let's look at this next slide. Wow. When you first look at a group photo, who do you look for in the group photo? The first person you look for is yourself, right? You're not going to look at where's Pastor Sabrina. You're not going to look and say, where's Pastor Andrew. The first thing you say is, I'm right in the middle. I'm right at the back. I'm right at the corner. Then the next thing you start thinking is, wow, I look really skinny. Or you say, hey, why is my head tilted to the left? Or you say, hey, why my bird looking at a bird there and not at the camera? Why that day I didn't put any makeup, right? In a group photo, it's not about the group, it's all about how good you look, right? I mean, it's just natural. We have this tendency in a group photo, if you look good in it, you will say to your friend, please send it to me, send to me. And then you give a thumbs up, you give a heart emoji, right? But if you don't like the group photo, hey, come back, let's take it again, right? I mean, we have this tendency, everything gets judged around me. Everything gets judged around me. And sometimes we forget that the world comprises of other people. It's so easy for us to think of that way. Selfishness is what I do for myself. But significance is what I do for others. Selfishness is what I do for myself, but significance is what I start doing for other people. Proverbs 11, verse 24 to verse 25 says this. There is one who gives and yet increases more. It's kind of a paradox. If you give, you have less, isn't it? But no, the Bible says when you give, yet you increase more. Then the Bible also says, yet there's one who withhold. If you withhold, you keep it to yourself and you think it's mine, I'm not going to give it away, it leads to poverty. Whew. Another translation says this, you see this on the slide. Somebody may share his things with other people, but he still becomes richer. Somebody else may keep the things that he should give to others, but he still becomes poor. God blesses generosity by increasing what we have, and he replenishes our supply through our acts of giving. Something happens when we start sowing, and then we will reap. Something happens when we begin to go beyond what is this for me to the fact that we are willing to sow and committed to wanting rewards and blessings and prosperity by sowing into the lives of other people. Being generous has nothing to do with how much you have. And nothing to do with how rich or how poor you are. Being generous has to do with what is mine is not mine, but actually it is yours. This is the perspective of the Samaritan. The Samaritan walked by. In fact, all three of them, Samaritan, Levite, and priest, all saw the same problem. They all saw the same problem. They all saw the vicious attack of the robbers on the victim, robbed him, left him for dead, half dead. All three had the opportunity to help the victim, but only two had a reason not to help, not willing to serve. They probably had a good excuse. I'm going to be late for my meeting. I got family commitments or whatever it might be. If I touch you, I'll become unclean, so on and so forth. There are good reasons and good excuses too. But you see, the priest and the Levite had an inside perspective. It's all about them. It's all about, I don't think I want to give my time, my energy, my resources to help somebody else. It is mine. But the Samaritan, he had an outside perspective. He saw the potential of helping somebody. His perspective is, what is mine is yours, and I'm going to give it. Wow, what a difference, isn't it? Perhaps there are three things that were going through the mind of the Samaritan. The first thing is this: if I don't stop, what will happen to the victim? He will be hurt, he will be bleeding, he will be half dead. If no one comes to his aid, he will probably die. The second thing that comes to his mind is, if I don't stop, what will happen to me? If I keep ignoring this person, I can cross over to the other side, pretend I didn't see. When you ignore the cries of help from others, you will stop caring and sharing with others. And you just push away. You harden your heart. And you step back from serving, you step back from caring, you step back from sharing with others. Why? Because you have been hurt. The third thing that the Samaritan thinks through is, if I do stop, what will happen to me? And he concluded, I will make a difference. You see, when you stop and you meet a need, you will indeed make a difference in the lives of others. That is what is mine is yours, and I will give it away. Albert Einstein once said this, and I love this quotation: a person starts to live when he can live outside himself. When it's not about yourself anymore, but it's really about others. But I think what is most important is a fourth perspective. The fourth perspective is what every Christian ought to have as well. Number 3 and number 4. Number 4 is this: what is mine is not mine, and I'm going to manage it. It's talking about stewardship here. I would love to bring Pastor Sabrina and Pastor Andrew out for lunch today. But you see, I didn't bring my wallet, so I need somebody to give me $100. Any volunteers here who? Oh wow, got $100. Wow, $100. Okay, I think I want to bring Charles and Punita as well, so I need another $100. Now, why is it that Charles came out so quickly to give this $100? Because before the service, this is mine $100 and I gave it to him. So the money is not his. It actually belongs to me. And so he graciously, gladly gave it, because if he keeps it, he will feel guilty because it's my money, right? Now that is how sometimes we look at the possessions that we own, the things that we have. We look at the things that we have and we say, it's mine. But really, when you think about it, actually everything that we have belongs to God. All of our possessions belongs to God. If we need to learn something about today's time of ministry and message, it is we have to learn to surrender all. What is yours is not really yours, but belongs to God. And therefore, if it belongs to God, it is not difficult to let go of something that is not yours. Have you seen a UHaul following a hearse? There's a slide here, I think. Yeah. A U-Haul, right at the back, all the possessions, following the hearse. But what's the use? You can't carry your possessions to the cemetery, isn't it? You can't take all your possessions with you. James 1 verse 17 says this, and Psalms 24 verse 1. And it says this, every good and perfect gift is from above, comes down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. Psalms 24 verse 1. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, and the world, and that all that dwell within. So when you think about it, God has given us everything. So God wants us to be a river, not a reservoir. Not a reservoir. I want to close this by sharing with you very quickly 5 things you can ask when you commit yourself to give, when you commit yourself to serve. 5 questions about stewardship. The first one very quickly is leadership question. Does the leader have competence and character? When I give to the church, I'm trusting that the board members and the leaders have competence and character to make decisions, all right, so that it will be for the good of the church and the ministry. And I believe that RCA is like that. There are people that are concerned about where God is leading. We're not going to build a monument for ourselves, but we want everything to honor God and to do the work of the ministry. Why? Because we believe that the leaders will maximize the gift. And if I've given my gift away, it is not my responsibility to tell them what to do. I will pray for them so that they will come together, seek God, and decide what is best for what God has called the church to be. And so the question here is the leadership question. The second one is involvement question. Can I give more than just dollars? Sure. Your time, your energy, your commitment. And I believe that God is raising up a generation of young people that really have this passion, and they will go into unknown arenas and make a difference. The third question is this, a difference question. Is this organization going to make a difference to me and to others? Will this church help me to grow and develop and cause me to grow and serve other people? Is my life being changed and transformed through this organization? Is the church helping others? Is the church helping me to get my life better so I have the potential to help others as well? The difference. Am I making a difference in the church? Is the church making a difference in me? And then the last one is potential question. The potential question is, how can I increase my giving? Some of us think, well, I've given so much, I think that's all I can do. But the potential question here is this, there are 3 levels of giving. The first one is what I do. And many of you are probably at this level of what I call faithfulness level. You're giving up your tithes, your offerings, your time, your energy, and you're serving. And that's what I call the faithfulness level. God has called you to be faithful in these things, and you've been pouring yourself into that. Then the second thing is what I could do. What I could do is the sacrifice question. What am I willing to give up? Maybe giving up extra sleep so that I can wake up early and pray for the leaders. Maybe my talents and my gifts are not maximized. I want to give perhaps there are things that I want to serve serving in leadership takes sacrifice too. And the number of hours board members and leaders come together to pray, to seek God, it involves sacrifice, what I could do. And then the last one is what I would do. What I would do if I trust God to be my total resource. It is a faith question. That means you're moving in this faithfulness, and then the time when God says time to sacrifice, and you move to another level. And then there's an element of the faith level where I would say, if I trust God for everything, what would I do? What would I do? A few years ago, I met an Indonesian businessman. And he has a business. Sunday, he will give it totally to the Lord. And he will work 6 days. And then the Lord spoke to him and said, I want you to sacrifice one more day. So he said, okay, I will give up my Friday. So Lord, what do you want me to do? And as he started praying, the Lord burdened his heart to go to a Muslim village around Jakarta area. And he felt impressed to go to this village. So he went to the village. And the moment he arrived, right in the very front, the gate of the village chief happens to be there, asked for his identity card, because in Indonesia, your identity card shows your religion. And the first thing the village chief said, Christians are not welcome in my village. Please leave. But the next Friday, he turned up again at the gate. And every Friday after that. A few months later, villagers started asking him, why are you doing here? From 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Why are you doing here? And he says, whatever you want me to do, I will do for you. And so villagers started to ask him, can you send my son to the hospital? I got an appointment here. I'm late for work. Whatever. And this businessman just served the people. Then my church was doing a mission trip to Indonesia in Jakarta. So we wrote to him, what do you want us to do? We are going to be there for 10 over days, and what do you want us to do? And so the businessman went to the village chief and said, hey, I got some friends coming from Australia and they want to do something for your village. What do you think needs to be done? And the village chief said this, every time there's a rainy season, the monsoon season, the water will flood the canal and the wooden bridge will just break and wash away the bridge that connects to the transport to go to the main city. And then the villagers have to go a long way to get to the city. Would your friends be willing to help build a cement bridge? When this businessman replied and said, they want you to build a bridge, then my thinking was this. We are Australians, we have lawyers, accountants, doctors, but we don't have people who are in the construction industry. We're not very good with our hands, So we actually paid people to build this bridge. And amazingly, it was done within a week. And then the village chief said this, because he knew we were Christians. He knew I'm a pastor, right? The village chief said this, when the bridge was completed, said, would you ask your pastor to pray for this bridge? And not only that, we said we have some people here that like to work with the children, and he said, okay. And he gave us a spot, on a Friday, where it's Muslim prayer time. And we were able to do a children's ministry next to the mosque, and for the children, and even pray for children, preach the gospel message, and we saw children getting saved and parents getting saved, and we started a cell group in that Muslim village. And we were doing door knocking and found hidden Christians inside the village, former Muslims who became Christians but still live in the village. I mean, when you open your heart, when you have this thinking, I want to manage. I want to be a good steward. It's not going to be selfishness, but significance. Wow, I tell you what, God is going to orchestrate things. So some of you may end up saying, what can I give to God today? Well, I'll tell you one thing. What is mine is not mine, but is yours, Lord. It's yours, Lord. Will you just bow your heads, close your eyes, and